Have you ever wondered why most dashboards start with KPI cards? They're usually the first thing people see, the heart of every dashboard. But what if I told you that the way you design them could completely change how people use your dashboard? Let me show you what I mean. Here's a KPI card you've probably seen before. Now, here's the one I'm going to show you today. Looks simple, right? But it actually tells you so much more. Let's break it down. This card shows the main KPI value. Then there's this tiny red dot. It's small but powerful. Whenever conversion drops compared to last week, it turns red. Instantly, the user knows something needs attention. It also includes a week-over-week comparison, a text label describing what's happening, an action trigger, what to do next, and even a bar showing how much we've recovered from the worst point this month. So much insight packed into one glance. Now, most people believe KPI cards should be simple, and that's true, but simple doesn't mean less information. It means clear information. If you only focus on 1 to 3 key KPIs, the ones that truly drive your company's goal, you can deliver clarity without clutter. Instead of confusion, the viewer gets direction. They instantly see what's going wrong, why, and what to do next. When building a dashboard, remember this. A good dashboard doesn't just report, it alerts. It tells users when something's off, and also when things go right. This creates a feedback loop. People start checking the dashboard regularly. They trust the data. And trust is what makes dashboards actually used, not ignored. Before writing any DAX, stop and ask, what exactly is this KPI? What affects it? How does it connect to the final goal? Let's take conversion as an example. It's the percentage of visitors who end up buying, but what changes it? Maybe a campaign brings in too many visitors and the staff can't keep up. Conversion drops. Maybe better customer service improves satisfaction, conversion rises. Maybe promotions boost the rate. List all these factors. That's how you really understand your KPI. Once you do, visualize the funnel from visitors to customers. That's the flow you'll express in your DAX. Here's the plan. We'll create a few main measures: status trigger and recovery rate from the lowest point this month. I won't cover all the details here, but you can download the full DAX set from my website, datades.net. First, we're defining current KPI status to show on the card. Let's look at the code. These variables check whether each metric has dropped compared to last week. Once we know that, we use a switch statement to return the right comment. For example, when conversion and visitors both drops, DAX returns comment as fewer qualified visitors this week. This gives our KPI card some personality. It doesn't just show a number, it talks back to us, describing what's happening and why. And that's the first step toward making your dashboard actionable. Next, the recovery trigger. We have compared current KPI with KPI from last year. However, you can always change method of calculation, such as comparing with last period, rolling average, or target. As I said, the DAX gives back if current KPI versus LY is positive or negative. Now let's move to the trigger section, which displays what action we should take. Using a measure just explained, if it returns true, then we will show launch midweek promotion in top 5 stores. If not, very simple. But here again, you can use switch statement if you want to give more detailed trigger options. Next, we define the recovery bar. First, define the lowest conversion of the year, the current conversion, and the target conversion. Then, calculate the denominator using the max function to avoid division by 0, and divide the improvement from the lowest recorded point to the current conversion by this denominator. Finally, format the result so that it stays within a range between 0 and 1. This is how the KPI card becomes conversational, almost like it's coaching the user. In this example, I want it to be very simple, so you can add many more conditions to trigger actions if you have specific things you need to act on depending your KPI. So putting it all together, this KPI card doesn't just display metrics. It communicates insights, context, and even next steps. We've moved from reporting to guiding, and that's what makes it truly actionable. Once all the measures are ready, you can build the card using Power BI visuals or go one step further with Deneb. I am sure that DAX is already complicated enough and can overwhelm you, so I have prepared Deneb code so you can simply download and use it on your Power BI, along with DAX measures we covered today. You can stop here to visit us at datades.net, but if you want to go further, here is the next part to show you how to create the visual with Deneb. Deneb is a free Power BI add-in, and you can add one from Get More Visual on your Power BI. It lets you code your own visuals using Vegalite. It's perfect for visuals that Power BI can't easily handle, like layering shapes, icons, or custom tooltips. Once you download Deneb, then click Deneb and add data you want to show on the visual. Then click three dots above the visual, hit Edit, select Vega Light, then Create. Next, here's a quick overview of how this Deneb specification is structured. First, define the data and name it as Dataset. Next, specify the canvas size in pixels using the width and height properties. The Config section allows you to control the canvas layout. For example, hiding axis lines or adjusting the overall visual frame. After that, you'll find the Transform section, where we define variables for easier reuse later in the code. Think of these transforms as similar to VAR statements in DAX. They help you calculate and store intermediate values. Once the structure is ready, you move to the Layer section. Each layer represents a visual element, such as shapes, text, or charts, that together form the final card design. In this example, the first layer is a rectangle defined under Mark. It acts as the outer border of the card. Inside each layer, you'll find an encoding block. This is where you define visual properties like position, X, X2, Y, Y2, colors, sizes, and alignment. By stacking multiple layers, each with a similar structure, Deneb overlays them to create a rich multi-element visual. That's how this code combines all the calculated measures and transforms into the final polished KPI card. The elements prepared for the layer section include several components. First, the outer frame, which we already discussed. Then the main title, created as a text element. The KPI figure is also a text mark displayed in a larger 40pt font for emphasis. The red conversion label is another text element styled with the same color as the dot indicator, which is not shown when positive. The root cause we defined earlier in DAX using the switch function appears here as well. The small dot placed on the right side represents the week-over-week change. If the conversion decreased compared to the previous week, the dot turns red. Otherwise, it remains hidden. This logic is handled through the Transform section. Next, we have a pill-shaped frame that contains the word trigger, along with the corresponding text label that shows the action plan or initiative, which we also defined in DAX earlier. Following that are two text layers showing the owner and due date. Both are dynamically generated through Transform before being displayed. Then comes the progress bar. The light blue bar in the background represents the base, and its length is controlled through a calculated Transform value. On top of that, the actual progress bar layer indicates the current recovery level. Since it can sometimes extend too far when the result is strongly positive, we use a clamp function to set a visual limit. Finally, there's a title label for the progress bar, and one more text element that describes how much recovery has been achieved from the YTD lowest point. This summary sentence is generated directly through DAX. With all these layers combined, the card is complete. And that's it. We've built a fully interactive, data-driven KPI card. It starts with the number, gives the reason, suggests an action, assigns ownership, and shows recovery all in one glance. This is what turns a dashboard from informational into actionable. Try this Deneb template in your own Power BI reports and make your KPIs speak. You can also grab it from my visual gallery online. It might look simple, but inside this one visual, there's DAX Logic, data, and design all working together to make your KPIs speak. And that's the point. Dashboards shouldn't just display numbers. They should communicate meaning. So if you want to learn how to build KPI cards like this, hit subscribe and check the link below for templates and tutorials. Let's make dashboards that not only show data, but inspire action.